Good morning, brothers and sisters, and I'm very thankful that I'm invited by KK to serve this morning with the Word of God. This is the first time I share with your congregation, so I use Psalm 1. Psalm 1, all the songs I think talk about how to walk with God, and then Psalm 1 is a beginning song. It teaches a very basic and important spiritual principle that we have to face a very chaotic and difficult and in some time very dark world. In this era of Hong Kong and the era of the world, sometimes good is not right, sometimes true is not right, sometimes might is right, position is right, sometimes even very false message, wrong message may be right because they are in position to speak those verses. So I think Psalm 1 teaches two basic principles. One is never take the side of the evil forces. The other one is always stay with God. The world is very concerned about the Ukraine war, and it started on 24th February and 2022. It seems like a modern Goliath against a small David. Especially in the beginning days, many people and many critics thought that Russia and Putin will win the war, the invasion in a few days. And Putin's goal is to seize Kyiv within the first 2 days of the campaign. Even U.S. offer Zelensky to evacuate from Kyiv. So with this background, we will see how difficult to face the evil forces or evil men. This difficulty is not only about country-to-country issues, but also in our daily life and in this era of Hong Kong. Sometimes we have a very unreasonable seniors in our company. Sometimes how to face them is quite difficult. So I will introduce a method to read Hebrews. For those who haven't learned the Hebrews, there's a tools called interlinear Bibles. For Hebrews, it starts from the right to the left. So, for example, the first one, the first word is bested, and best the man, something like that, go through like that. Go. So, the comparison is there is a man, but he is facing the temptation, the challenge, and also the coercion of many wicked men, many sinners, many scoffers or mockers. So in case you use Google, you type the word interlinear Bible, and then you type the verse, the chapters, or the book you want. You'll find a site called Bible Hub, and then you will see the page like that. So you see it, and then if you use it frequently, then you can grab the full and also the word pace of the Hebrews sentence a little bit. So if we go back to the verse, okay, there's a comparison of the man against many wicked men, many sinful men, many scornful men. It's one man against many wicked, sinful, scornful men. So just like the small David have to face not but one Goliath, but many Goliath. This is the beginning of Psalm 1 to tell us that how difficult is the walk of a godly way. The second point it mentioned about the verse 1 is the first word, blessed. The word blessed in Hebrew called asher. So just like when our Lord Jesus start with the Sermon on the Mount, he tell about how to go through a blessed life. So it also mentioned that the only way, only road to a blessed life, the only way, only road to become a blessed person is never, never, never stand with the side of the evil forces and persons. Sometimes it's easy for us to do, but sometimes when the challenge come, for example, our senior in our organization asks us to do something wrong. In some cases, even the government requests us to do something wrong. Not to align with them in those cases can be very, very difficult. So unless we bear in mind very strongly that the only way to a blessed life is never, never to stand with the side of the evil forces or present. And the verse 1 also have 3 words: walk, stand, and sit. So some commentators have a way to tell the story. We may start the downturn road to becoming to stick with the evil sides by walking with them, and staying longer by standing their way, and even we sit in the sit. Then we will stay and became evil men. So the journey of walk, stand, and sit, we will become the allies of the evils. So this downturned warnings keep us in mind. We may start to walk a little bit with them. Then we will stand and stay longer with them. And finally, we sit on the sit. We became them. So in the old Chinese version, in the very old one, in Cantonese called Phật hành, Phật lập, Phật坐. Don't walk, don't stand, don't sit, stand out. And especially in Hebrew, this don't, the Hebrew term is called, pronunciation is L-O, no. So similar to our English no. Fee no, 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 no. We have to say no, no, no to them. Not to stand with them, not to walk with them, and not to sit with them. But in history, it's quite tough. One notorious case is the duet of Adamite, Chinese called Yi Dongyan, Do Yik. He became a brutal killer to kill all the pigs for the evil king Saul. When Saul find that David escaped his hand, he condemned the city of the priests, and he has asked the gods to kill all the pigs of that city. But interesting, in the Bible, it mentioned that the king's officials were unwilling to raise a hand to strike the priests of the Lord. Even the king official, they may compromise a lot of bad things to serve King Saul. But for this so evil acts, they are not afraid to do it and caught the condemnation from the God. But this Doeg, he followed the instruction of Saul, and he killed all the pigs. The Bible also mentioned that he also killed all the children and infants. Sometimes we may follow the way of evil to such an extent that we became a very evil man. In the history of darkness, in the time of Lassie, there's a grand church event on November 3rd, 1933. It's just the beginning of the rise of Hitler, and they are going through gathering to honor the birth of Martin Luther about 450 years ago. When they gather, a Lotus pastor called Weinhold Kos, he pitched in this grand event on the Berlin Sport Palace, a very, very big sport avenue. And he stated we have to hate the Jews and follow the leaders, Hitler, something like that. And all the members joined that event alive with that thought. In those days, they have many events, and so especially a group called Deutsche Christian. In English, they translated it as German Christians. They alive with Hitler so much. In the event, they have the Hitler portrait. In their course, they did the Nazi sign. And this is a shameful history of German Christians and pastors in the Nazi story. They totally allied with the evil forces. So back to our Bible today, the second related principle is on the verse 2. In the Cantonese 和本為喜愛耶和華的律法，晝夜思想，這人便為有福。In this famous Chinese translation, the law appears only once. But in Hebrews and the words we read out NIV, the law, sometimes the pronunciation is Torah, repeat twice. But in the law of Yahweh is his delight. And in his law, he meditates day and night. So, for example, if you use this interlinear, you will find that the law, Torah, the strong number is 58451. The second here is also strong number 8451, also the law, Torah. The word meditate have two meanings. Sometimes when we read the word meditate, the Hebrew word is called hagar. We thought it's about the head thing. I mean, we think about that. But actually, this word also about speaking. So we not only think about the word and the Lord of the Yahweh, of the Lord, but we have on some occasion to speak out the word of God. That means when we are confronted by the evil message in our work, in the family, in our church, in our society, we sometimes have to speak out the principle, to speak out the truth, speak out the God ideas on this topic. Not only meditate, but have to speak out. So, because the evil force can be so numerous, so powerful, and the temptation and coercion may be so strong, we need the word and the Lord of God day and night. Just like Paul mentioned about the armor of God. In verse 3, if we read the Hebrews, the rivers and the waters both are plural. So if we translate more literally, he's like a tree planted by the rivers of waters. So it's plenty waters and plenty rivers. If we go back to the Genesis chapter 2, the Garden of Eden, there are 4 rivers. So the Psalm tell the congregation to think back the time when man can walk closely with God, and we are staying the 4 rivers of Eden. So if we walk with God, even in this broken world, we may be like we are as in Eden, because God is the source of light, life, glory, and ultimate victory. So we are like a tree. In all that he does, he prospers. So it's the only way to win this difficult spiritual warfare. We have to stick with God. Verse 3 also have a phrase called "in his time." As a tree to have its fruit, it takes time. It also sometimes it have to take a long dark winter. And in our human situation, the process may be painful with much humiliation and fear. For example, in the story of David, when David had to face King Ashif, he had to pretend to be crazy to escape the danger of being killed. So sometimes we know the principle that in his time, we may get the ultimate victory. But in the process, sometimes we are facing long, dark winters. During this time, do we keep on our journey with God? On the war of Ukraine, the invasion of Russia, the eyes of the world are on Mariupol. They are dangerous to be killed in the terms of thousands of people there, or something like that. And also their theater attack, something like that. Even a news heading called "God has left Mariupol." The journey can be difficult. Ultimately, for example, Hitler died, but in the process, many suffers. It's not It's not easy to go through those process. We are having our season of Lent. The way to resurrection, the way to Easter, have to go through the way of cross. So we have to be reminded again and again. No matter how difficult is the situation and the challenge, never stick with the evil. Never take the side of evil. Never admire the evil man. Always stick with God. For example, in an era of difficulty in the English Reformation, they have a Queen Mary that are very harsh to the Protestant Christian. In history, she is called the Bloody Queen Mary. In the time of 1553 to 1558. One pastor called Bernard, he was on his way to be judged in London, to be burned at the stake. During this 5-year reign by the Bloody Queen Mary, There are about over 300 pastor or religious leaders uh, uh, were condemned, were burned at the stake. So we probably know a cocktail called Bloody Mary. uh, this Pastor Bernard has a famous words sentence. He tell himself and tell his congregation, all that God sends is for the best. That means we have to stay with God. No matter what gave us a good time or bad time, the good time or that time, when we finally come back to think about the past, then we will know that that is the good thing God gave us. On his way to be judged in London, to be persecuted and to be burned, he dropped from the horse and broke his leg. The captain who asked to bring him to London ridiculed him maliciously. You always said that nothing happened to us but what is intended for our good. So, did God intended that you should break your leg in your journey to London to be burned? Bernard replied, I don't know how it will, but I believe that for my good, I know it will work for my good, and you shall see it so. Actually, we don't know how God works, but by faith, Bernard said, we may know in the future. So he have a conviction, if we have God, we will ultimately surely win. During this recovery of the legs, about 1 to 2 weeks, they received the big news. It just happened, the Queen Mary died. And the Queen Elizabeth, who support the Protestant cause, became the Queen. And then this Pastor Bernard tell the captain, so you see, my dear captain, as I said before, God's will be done. All is for the best. This is the very true story, and it's recorded in the famous book called Fox, Book of the Martyrs. And the pastor served 25 years more. In the case of choice and making a very difficult decision, he chose to stick with God. In verse 4 and 5, not so the wicked men. They are like chaff, that the wind blows away. Therefore the wicked man will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous men. The song carried on to use a plural lines to tell the force of the evil. There are many wicked men, but ultimately they will not stand in the judgment of God. So this was using illustration of light chaff to remind us that the evil one are not so strong. Actually, in the eye of God, and ultimately, the evil one are the most weak and most stupid. Superficially, they seem to be strong and many, but we have to see what they actually are, or what they actually like, and what are their ending. So somebody have do the farming. We're not so sure what is sharp. Sharp is the cover of a small grain, something like that. If you go to a farm, there's a lot of sharp in the harvest day. but they have no value, absolutely no value. So the evil one in the eyes of God have no good, no substance, no true food, no good food, no value. In the eye of God, they are very light. They are not heavy nor important in the eye of God. And their final destiny, they will be blown away. They cannot stand the judgment. Hitler died. King Saul suicide. In the picture, we see a very lonely Putin. We don't know the end game of him, but it seems that his end game will not be nice. So we go to the last verse 6. For Yahweh knows the way of the righteous man, but the way of the wicked man shall perish. Remember that we start with the man, one man, but we end with the many, many righteous men. So sometimes we feel alone. But on Sunday, for example, this beautiful Sunday when we gather, we have a few dozen people join together. We are not totally alone. And in the day of God's judgment, there will be many, many righteous men. For some, and also the most important of these verses is the last word, perish. Remember the words. The first word of the Psalm 1 is blessed. And the last word is perish. So the writer of Psalm 1 reminds us we have to make a very important decision to take which side. Which side we take will have the eternal, fatal, and most important consequence. One spelling, consequence. Okay. So the first word is vested, a share. The last word is perish, destroy, destruction, abad. So in this word, the last word, who has the final say? Not the evil forces, not the one in high position, not the dark prince of the world, but God. God has the final say of the victory. So who stand with God will have the final victory. Who stand of the opposite side of God will stay with the force of the seemingly strong evil forces will be taking the opposite side of God, and the ending game is perish, destruction. Jesus reminds us, narrow is the path to life, broad is the way to destruction. Jesus gave us similar learning. In the darkness of the days, the last day, Jesus had to face the cross. Judas betrayed Jesus with 50 silver coins. The prince of the dark seemed to win the day. But who have the final say? What is the end games of King Saul and Judas? Jesus and all his faithful followers have to choose the way of course. In the story of Ukraine, the allied force of Putin is the country of Belarus. And on March 18th, the ambassador of Belarus to Ukraine want to leave Ukraine for good because he knew that more crucial, more cruel, more dark war will coming. When he left, when he had to leave the border, a soldier represent Ukraine want to show their message to they used to be friendly country, Belarus now become a allied invasion force with Putin. This representative gave this ambassador 30 pieces of silver. You may see this in YouTube. And he tell this ambassador, this is an order to you. We despise you. Belarus was used to be a brother people to Ukraine. But on this evil war, they took the side of Putin and become a joint hand invaders. And the Ukrainians despise them. In the difficult time in the World War II, one famous Christian, an ambassador for the Republic of China, 中華民國 called 何鳳山 何鳳山. He did great thing for the Jews, and in Shanghai there's a called Shanghai Jewish Refugee Museum. They remember this great man. He was called the Chinese Schindler. He saved a lot of Jews. Actually, he may be the one who saved most Jews during the World War II. So nowadays they say that he probably saved more than 5,000 lives at that time. And the history say that Ho Fung San was probably the first diplomat to really take action to save Jews. When he led the Jews to have a visa of the Republic of China to escape the rule of Hitler and to go to Shanghai, it became a great news. And many Jews flow to his ambassador's avenue to ask for the visa. Nowadays, this Ho Fung San was very respected by the Jews, and Israel called him as the righteous among the nation. In Chinese, they call it 國際義人. When he started to pass the visas, Hitler was angry and asked him to see him. And Ho Fung San replied, "Why should I be afraid of that soft guy, Hitler? When I do my duty, why should I see him?" And in memory of him, they said a few sentences. Dr. Ho rescued thousands of Jews from the Holocaust by issuing visas to Shanghai and other documents. The next sentence is very important. Ignoring the orders of his superiors and at risk to his career and personal safety, he acted with steadfast courage when most would not. Actually, the senior officers of the Republic of China did not want to offend Hitler's. So Hall is actually doing something not his senior want to do. And because of that, finally, he was fired and cannot carry on his job. He suffered a lot. And in his older days, he immigrated to San Francisco and became an elder of a church. And also his story was recovered only after his death. So in his time, his foot will be revealed to the world. If you go to the site of Israel, they have a site for the righteous among the nation and tell us the story of Ho Fong San. So as we remember this sermon and this famous Psalm 1, we have to remember two basic principles. Never, never, never take the side of evil. Always stick with God. This is a choice of eternal importance. To be a blessed man, to have a blessed life in God. One big principle: be not like the wicked. Don't follow the way to destruction and perish. Famous missionary Hudson Taylor have a famous verse I like. While unbelief see the difficulty, faith see God between itself and them. In Cantonese, 不信的人只看見困難，信的人看見自己和困難之間還有上帝。We have to see God and like His way and follow His way. This is the only way to safety and ultimate victory, and the only way to goodness and best life. This is my sharing. Thank you.